Shannon is a martial arts practitioner living in Hong Kong. Her father, Danny, runs a local restaurant during the day and develops the game at night. Shannon's mother died a few years ago on the way to the airport. After her father refused to drive her that day, Shannon blamed him for her mother's death. The relationship between father and daughter has not been the same since. Shannon lives in a school dormitory and hardly ever visits her family. She has a rivalry with a boy in her class named Ricardo. He and his group of friends constantly bully her. One day, the bullies came to Shannon's father's restaurant and complained that the food wasn't spicy enough. Even after they finished eating, they refused to pay. Shannon gets revenge on them and makes them pay. Ricardo throws the money on the ground in embarrassment and walks away. Shannon picks it up and gives it to her father, who is dressed as a mascot. She also apologizes to him for Ricardo's rudeness. The next day at school, Ricardo gets revenge by tripping Shannon's friend's brother and dropping his food. Shannon's friends told her to forget it, but she refused to let them get away with it. She confidently sat with the bullies and finished their plates. Ricardo, intimidated, left her alone and ran off with his friends. Shannon later discovered that he had destroyed her clothes in the dryer. The group harassed her every day, taunting her when she made mistakes, making her fall over multiple times, and adding frogs to her lunchbox. A local businessman organizes 4,444 matches in front of his house every day. Shannon knew that Ricardo had defeated everyone he had fought so far. She took the opportunity to challenge him in front of everyone. She even went so far as to bet that he would wear a dress if he lost. Ricardo in turn asked him to cut his hair and wear men's clothes if he won. The fight started and lasted for quite a while. However, it was clear that Ricardo was much more skilled than Shannon. Suddenly, he let his guard down and punched her in the stomach. The pain almost knocked Shannon unconscious. After the punch, she tried to stand up and was defeated with just one kick. Ricardo laughed at her and handed her a pair of scissors. Accepting defeat, Shannon cut her hair. The next day, she went to school with short hair and everyone teased her. When she entered the classroom, Ricardo called her a man, which made her even angrier. When he continued to insult her, she attacked him in the middle of the class. They had to be separated by the teacher before the fight broke out. Shannon was then taken to the principal's office. He called Danny to tell him about his daughter's antics. Danny apologized for the inconvenience, saying that she was being aggressive because he wasn't a good father to her. He also begged the director to let her go this time. When Shannon went to eat lunch at the cafeteria that day, some girls stopped her. They also joined forces with Ricardo to cause trouble for her at school. Shannon's friends scolded everyone for supporting the bully, but they ignored her. Not wanting to cause trouble, Shannon left without eating lunch. She remembers her mother as the reason she became interested in Kung Fu. While most mothers dress their daughters in princess dresses, Shannon's mother made her wear dresses from a very young age. She thinks Kung Fu needs girls like Shannon as much as Shannon needs Kung Fu. That evening, Danny calls her on and invites her home for the weekend on because she hasn't been home in 3 months. Shannon is reluctant, but she agrees to visit him anyway. After the call with his daughter, Danny also called an investor and asked him to come to test his new game. He created a virtual game where you have to fight in reality to win. In the evening, Shannon returned home and met his father. Danny tries to reason with her, but she is rude and dismissive. When he calls her out on her rudeness, she forces herself to laugh and ignores him. Danny also asks her about her hair, but Shannon doesn't take it seriously and doesn't tell him that she's being bullied. When he mentions Shannon's change in behavior after her mother's death, she blames him for everything. Hurt by his words, Danny walks away. A while later, Shannon went to her office and snooped around. She noticed a strange necklace on her desk, but didn't pay much attention to it. She also found a headset on her workstation and decided to put it on. As soon as she put it on, she entered the virtual world of ancient China. Suddenly, a group of people attacked her, but she defended herself effectively. She also noticed that her hair had grown back. Then her eyes turned to Ricardo, who was wearing traditional Chinese clothing and was fighting his opponents. It turned out that the people he was fighting were thieves trying to steal food from a farmer's house. Shannon was surprised to see Ricardo doing a good deed for once. Then the leader of the group, Norman, stepped forward to fight Ricardo. However, he proved weak to Ricardo's expertise and was taken down within minutes. After the thugs escaped, Ricardo gave the farmers the confiscated grain. Shannon followed him and asked how he got into the game. She soon discovered that he was in the game under a different name and completely different personality than Ricardo. He also told her about the two power-stealing brothers, Norman and Tyson. They gathered and trained an army to rob the poor of food and necessities. Ricardo thus protected the residents of his town at the risk of his life. He was sure that since Norman had just been defeated, his hot-tempered brother Tyson would take revenge. Elsewhere in the bandit camp, Tyson was furious. He sent some of his men to follow Ricardo, looking for the best time to attack the village. Shannon then toured the village and was admitted to the martial arts academy. She meets Daryl, her bully, one of the good people in the virtual world. The principal of his school is a martial arts teacher. He thinks she is with thieves and has his students surround her. When he finds out she is just an innocent stranger, he apologizes and sends her back to his room so she can stay in their village. Shannon is also introduced to the village chief. Suddenly, Ricardo fell ill and passed out. The group rushed him to see the village doctor, Miss Aries. She was trained in martial arts and was a skilled fighter. Later, when Ricardo was better, she and Shannon explored the village. They came across an old barn and saw a ghostly-looking person meditating. Aries explained that the man was his father, who had been living in the hangar for a year. It turned out that his father, Bao, was a traveler who helped people and caught thieves wherever he went. However, after Aries' mother died, he wanted to isolate himself from the world and not leave the hangar. Shannon stayed in the village for the next few days and learned various martial arts techniques from the village chief. She and Ricardo practiced together and learned a lot from each other. Soon the village ran out of food due to increased theft. The village chief reduced 3 daily meals to just 2. Workers and civilians are suffering because they may soon starve to death. So at night, Shannon, Ricardo, Daryl, and Aries went to the thieves' house to steal some grain. Daryl uses a pipe and darts to render the guards unconscious. They then break into storage room and prepare to clean up everything. However, the alarm goes off, alerting everyone in house that they have arrived. Aries appears before the enemy to save the others. The rest of group reluctantly escape without her. The next morning, Shannon asks the village chief to save Aries, but he refuses because Aries was caught stealing, which is against their rules. Then, she went to ask Bao, Bok Doong's father, for help. She told him everything about her mother's death and how she blamed her father for it. Shannon said that her father could not have been kinder to her and admitted that she was at fault for blaming him. She was about to give up hope when Bao walked out of the hangar, determined to save his daughter. The group attacks the thief's base and fights the guards before rescuing Aries. Father and son met again and decided to go on a trip like before. Shannon wants them to stay until the thieves are completely gone, but Bao affirms his belief that they can stop the thieves. After Tyson discovered his troops had been attacked, he prepared to invade the village with his soldiers. Knowing he's about to do something like this, Shannon, Ricardo, and Daryl think of a way to stop him. Shannon knew there had to be some way to defeat the enemy, since this was a game after all. Then she remembered the necklace she saw on her father's desk that looked exactly like the necklace worn by a soldier. She happily thanked her father for the clue. Hours later, Tyson and his soldiers attacked the village. The chief and his students fought them with all their might. In the midst of the battle, Shannon notices the necklace and the man wearing it. However, when she tries to fight him, she is killed and sent back to reality. Shannon refuses to give up and puts her helmet back on. It turns out that she only has 1 life left, meaning she can continue the game from where she left off. This time, she defeats the soldier and retrieves her necklace. She opens the locket and finds a picture of her mother inside. In a split second, all of Tyson's soldiers disappeared because Shannon figured out the clue. When only Tyson remains, they overpower him and win the battle. We then see Shannon and Ricardo by the river. She tells him that she misses her father and asks him to take her home. Ricardo promised to remember her and bring her back to reality. When Shannon finally returned, she had only been playing for a few hours. It turned out that Danny and a potential investor had been watching her perform the whole time. Shannon hugged her father and apologized for being rude to him. The investor was so impressed with the game that he offered to invest 10 million yuan in it. Next week, there will be a national kung fu competition. Shannon and Ricardo participated in the competition and were selected in different categories. They need to win 4 rounds to reach the final. On the day of the competition, Shannon looked around and was sad that her father was not there. However, she still tries her best and easily wins over the real Aries. Likewise, Ricardo won the following rounds and reached the final. Shannon faced a guy in the semifinals, and after an intense match, she defeated him. Now the rivals have to fight each other in the final. The crowd eagerly watched as they prepared to fight. Ricardo launched the first attack, but Shannon dodged it. Likewise, Ricardo dodged all of Shannon's attacks. The first round ended without either of them landing a hit. The referee blew the whistle to end the round, but Ricardo fouled and attacked Shannon immediately afterwards. Points deducted but not coming back. On the next turn, they seemed to match in skill and strength. Suddenly, Shannon kicked Ricardo in the back and made him fall. Ricardo was angry, violated the rules again, and hit her on the back of the knee. Shannon was in pain, but she still stood up, ready for the next round. This time he kicked him in the back of the head, breaking another rule. Shannon was almost knocked out, but then she saw her father dressed as a crab cheering her on from the audience. With renewed motivation, she stood up to fight Ricardo. She remembered the technique she learned with the virtual Ricardo and used it on him. It worked without a problem, and she defeated him to win the competition. As the crowd erupts in cheers, she runs to her father and hugs him. In the final scene, she returns to school. She makes amends with Ricardo, who tells her that she deserved to win the final match. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, leave a comment about your favorite movie, and we will make it next. Thanks for watching.